You're watching WION World. US President Joe Biden has urged Hamas to accept a new Israeli proposal to end the conflict in Gaza, saying that it's time for this war to end. The three-part proposal would begin with a 6-week ceasefire in which the Israel Defense Forces would withdraw from populated areas of Gaza. There would also be a surge of humanitarian aid as well as an exchange of some hostages for Palestinian prisoners. The deal would eventually lead to a permanent cessation of hostilities and a major reconstruction plan for Gaza. Hamas says it views the proposal positively. Israel, through its prime minister, is still adamant and going further in saying that the transition from Proposal 1 and 2 is conditional. So, will the latest proposals sail through or the back and forth persists? Sergej Sumlenny is a defense expert and director at the European Resilient Initiative Center. He's now joining us live from Berlin. Thank you very much for joining us on WION World. A quick one. What do you make of Biden's proposal?
Thank you for having invited me. Yes, the proposal is understandable. The world, like the most of the world leaders, would like this war between Israel and Hamas to end. And President Biden has his elections in November. So for him, such a foreign policy goal being reached, finally after 7 months of heavy fighting, what he can present as a peace for Israel and Gaza would be a good achievement for his electoral campaign. And that is what he would like to achieve. Also, don't forget that the United States, they stick into this war and had to provide military assistance to Israel. Recently, just a month ago, shooting down Iranian missiles over the region, not only over Israeli sky, but also in neighboring countries. And he doesn't want to be involved in this again. So yes, for him, it's a very good deal. But I doubt that for Israel, this proposal seems to be good.
Mr. Sumlenny, what could this proposal mean for lasting peace in the region, not just for Israel and Gaza, but the region?
Well, it is not the first time when international mediators try to reach a sort of peace in the region. And of course, the conflict itself is a danger for the whole region. And it didn't appear like yesterday or 10 years ago. It is here for several decades. And it was also a sort of artificially groomed. We know that a lot of passion and creativity was invested into creating and continuing of this conflict. Just think about the Soviet Russian secret services, which actively cooperated with Palestinian Liberation Army, trained their people, and partly created their ideology. So now it is when we say that the troops, Israeli troops, just need to pull back, and hostages must be released, maybe some prisoners, Palestinian prisoners from Israeli prisons must be released. It has happened already several times, and it never helped. So the problem is not if the Israeli troops would retreat or if the prisoners would be exchanged for the hostages, but if there is a way for coexistence of two of these entities, the State of Israel and the Gaza Strip, administered by, in our case, Hamas administration. And here are doubts if it is possible, because it's no sustainable way how it can continue. And no side, practically speaking, knows how to solve it.
Mr. Sumlenny, Hamas says that it views the proposal as positive. When Israel says that the transition from Proposal 1 to Proposal 2 are conditional, what do they mean by that? What do you think they mean by saying that?
Well, for Israel, of course, the question is, can they be sure that there is no danger more coming from Hamas or organization which will follow Hamas if Hamas fails? Because Israel has left Gaza Strip once, and then Hamas came to power. Don't forget that Hamas started to oppress people in Gaza Strip very harshly, including executions, assassinations, like a lot of bans of political life, etc. And Israel has tunneled a lot of money from international organizations, as international community wanted absolutely legit support of people who live in Gaza Strip, and they pumped a lot of humanitarian aid into the area. Hamas took this money first and misused it, mostly misused it, building their tunnels, like buying weapons, etc. So for Israel, the question is, if they go now, what will come later? Because Gaza is pretty much destroyed. We have seen it. People are radicalized. What will happen further? Will Hamas just regain power and tunnel money once again and build new army and start a new attack? Who knows? So for Israel, the question of peace is more a question of how sustainable is this solution for the next, let me say, 10, 20 years. Don't forget also, of course, about the interest of President Netanyahu, who is right being criticized in his own country by his own people. He has his ideas. Some of them are far from democracy, with control over the court system, with internal propaganda against the Israeli population. For Netanyahu, it is also something personally for him, not for Israel, because Netanyahu is not Israel. But for Netanyahu, it's also dangerous because he cannot sell himself as a great leader to the nation when he pulls back, and it doesn't look like a victory anymore for him. So for the state of Israel and for the Israeli nation, the question how safe we can live here with bordering the Gaza Strip for the next 20 years, will we be attacked again? For Netanyahu, can I survive as a politician? And for Hamas, of course, like, can they regain control and come to business as usual with all the UN money they enjoy to receive?
Let's talk about now, Mr. Sumlenny, because the truce negotiations have been going on for months now. But there's also that one question. Do you think Israel is a hindrance to the truce talks and negotiations?
Well, I don't think that it can be seen like that. Of course, for Israel is that they have military power to, let me say, conduct this military operation in Gaza. It's undoubtedly that Hamas and IDF, they have absolutely unequal military power. But for Israel to go full scale there is absolutely impossible, because at the moment they lose international support. We have seen it already. The world was shocked after the attack of 7th October. And then, like, several weeks later, we have seen that none of international leaders practically support this military operation, and International Criminal Court has issued a arrest warrant against Netanyahu, which was like, nobody expected something like that like half a year ago, right? And so Israel is pretty much isolated. The moment when Israel is under attack on its territory, like the case with Iranian missile, and the nations say, okay, we support you, but we don't let you to continue conducting military operation in Gaza because the civilians are suffering. So Israel is pretty much tired here and doesn't see any solution further. Because, like, you cannot find a diplomatic solution in a situation when, once again, Hamas is brutally controlling Gaza, and Hamas does not represent the population of Gaza. So you cannot like just find a diplomatic solution when another negotiation. Hamas is A, not an independent actor; they are controlled much by Iran, and B is not interested in a peace solution because for Hamas, war is an essential part of which explains their existence to their own population.
Right.
So it's pretty much a stalemate, and I'm sure we will meet like in 10 years in this studio, and we'll discuss it once again, as the situation is not happened yesterday or 10 or 20 years ago.
With a different perspective, let's talk about another issue. The recognition of a Palestinian state remains a highly divisive issue among European governments. Even if EU member states reached consensus, the value of such a move would be largely symbolic. Question now is, should the EU recognize a Palestinian state now? And if it does, what are the consequences of that?
Well, I don't think that the EU will do it, because the positions of several European states, at least, are clearly against recognition of Palestine as a state. But once again, I don't believe that the recognition of state of Palestine as a subject of international law would help to solve this issue. Because if you look at the Hamas ideology, and we can imagine that if the state of Palestine would be recognized, it would be a huge victory for Hamas, practically the fulfillment of several decades of fighting against Israel will be rewarded. And they will say, we are the first political force which has fulfilled this, and we have defeated practically Israel. We conducted this attack of 7th October. We endured 7 months war with Israel. And as the result of this war, the Palestinian state has been not proclaimed, but internationally recognized. Mm-hmm. That would be a huge victory for Hamas. But Hamas has claims for the state of Palestine, as they call it, for the whole territory of Israel. So they will be practically forced to go to the next step, at least the continuation of undergoing fighting and hostilities with Israel, because they cannot say, okay, we have now the state of Palestine, and that is, let me say, like 20 kilometers, 5 kilometers, and we are locked between Egypt and Israel. That's not the goal which they really can enjoy. They need then to explain why they need to expand, why they need to go further. And that would create the next conflict. Mm-hmm. So, yes, for many forces, for many political actors, even in Israel, the two-state solution seems to be a good option. And there are like experts who would say yes, who would say no. But what I want to say is that in the current situation, in the current war, under the current de facto government of the Gaza Strip, recognition of the state would be even worse, because it would encourage and empower those in Gaza Strip, Hamas, mm-hmm. who do not respect human life, even of the people who live in Gaza Strip. They don't care. They want to have perpetual war.
Mr. Sumlenny, I'm still on that, and there's also another issue. France's foreign minister accused fellow EU members, Spain and Ireland, of having recognized Palestinian statehood as part of political positioning instead of seeking a solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Your reaction to that?
Well, that is understandable. That is what I just said, that this recognition in this current situation of the Palestinian state looks and is understandably being read as a reward for Hamas for its actions, like first for the attack on 7th October, and then for participation in the war. And it looks like a victory of Hamas over Israel. It doesn't bring a peaceful solution in itself. I don't say once again that in the future there cannot be two-state solution, but in the current situation, such recognition is clearly looks like encouragement for Hamas. And I think that many European states, they look at this and they really don't know what to do. If you look at the position of the German foreign ministry, they first has frozen their monetary support for United Nations agency, which operates the humanitarian help in Gaza Strip. Then they restored it. Now the Israeli army posted photos of institutions in Gaza Strip which were funded by the German state. You clearly have a German flag and German symbols on the entrance of the KfW, Germany Investment Bank, state-owned investment bank, and there are like tunnels under these offices. And the discussion is here very acute in Germany. Okay. What should we do? And Germans are clueless. We cannot stay and don't support people who live in Gaza, and we cannot support them because money goes to Hamas. That's a dilemma which European states don't know how to solve.
All right, Sergej Sumlenny will have to leave it there. He's a defense expert and director at the European Resilience Initiative Center. Mr. Sumlenny, thank you for talking to WION World is One today.
Thank you so much for having invited me.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.